Coming up on 5 Minute News. 9/11 families press Biden over declassification review. 20 years later, fallout from toxic World Trade Center dust cloud grows. And UN says Afghanistan on brink of universal poverty. It's Saturday, September 11. I'm Anthony Davis. Family members of victims of the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks are still skeptical that the Biden administration will declassify documents from the FBI investigation into the attacks, which they say point to involvement by officials in the government of Saudi Arabia. President Biden issued an executive order last week mandating a declassification review of the FBI investigation. The announcement of the declassification review came after hundreds of family members of 9/11 victims signed a letter telling Biden not to participate in September 11 memorial events unless he declassified investigation documents. The White House announced last Saturday that the president would visit all three sites where the planes hijacked on 9/11 crashed: Ground Zero, the Pentagon, and Shanksville, Pennsylvania. The families are hoping to see documents from the FBI's initial investigation of the attacks, known as Pent Bomb, and a subsequent FBI investigation into alleged Saudi involvement in the attacks, which in 2007 was dubbed Operation Encore. The precise details of alleged involvement of Saudi government officials in the 9/11 plane hijackings have remained opaque, though some individuals suspected or alleged to have helped the hijackers are known to the public. They include, for example, Mosaid Ahmed al-Jarrah, a Saudi diplomat whose name was revealed, apparently by accident, in an FBI file unsealed in May 2020. The Saudi government has long denied that any of its officials were involved in the attacks. The Saudi embassy in Washington, D.C. put out a statement on Wednesday saying it welcomed declassification of any documents pertaining to the 9/11 investigations. More than 111,000 people are enrolled in the World Trade Center Health Program, which gives free medical care to people with health problems potentially linked to the dust 2 decades after the Twin Towers collapse, and people are still coming forward to report illnesses that might be related to the attacks. To date, the US has spent $11.7 billion on care and compensation for those exposed to the dust, about $4.6 billion more than it gave to the families of people killed or injured on September 11. Years of research have produced partial answers about 9/11 health problems. The largest number of people enrolled in the federal health program suffer from chronic inflammation of their sinus or nasal cavities, or from reflux disease, a condition that can cause symptoms including heartburn, sore throat, and a chronic cough. Post-traumatic stress disorder has emerged as one of the most common persistent health problems, afflicting about 12,500 people enrolled in the health program. Nearly 19,000 enrollees have a mental health problem believed to be linked to the attacks, and more than 4,000 have some type of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, a family of potentially debilitating breathing problems. The Victim Compensation Fund, which makes payments to people with illnesses linked to the attacks, has an unlimited budget from Congress, but the medical program has grown so much it might run out of money. Under the program, anyone who worked or lived in Lower Manhattan or a small slice of Brooklyn is eligible for free care if they develop certain illnesses. Members of Congress have introduced a bill that would provide an additional $2.6 billion over 10 years to cover an expected funding gap starting in 2025. The United Nations Development Agency says Afghanistan is teetering on the brink of universal poverty, which could become a reality in the middle of next year unless urgent efforts are made to bolster local communities and their economies. It says the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan has put 20 years of steady economic gains at risk. The UN Development Programme outlined 4 scenarios for Afghanistan following the Taliban's August 15 assumption of power that predicts the country's GDP will decline between 3.6 and 13.2% in the next fiscal year, starting June 2022, depending on the intensity of the crisis and how much the world engages with the Taliban. That's in sharp contrast to the expected 4% growth in GDP before the fall of the government. Afghanistan pretty much faces universal poverty by the middle of next year, Kani Wignaraja, UNDP's Asia-Pacific director, told a news conference on Thursday, launching its 28-page assessment. That's where we're heading. It's 97 to 98% poverty, no matter how you work these projections. Per capita income in Afghanistan more than doubled in the last 20 years. Life expectancy at birth was extended by about 9 years. The number of years of schooling rose from 6 to 10. And we got women into university. But she said Afghanistan now faces a humanitarian and development disaster, resulting from political instability, frozen foreign reserves, a collapsed public finance system, a crush on local banking because of this, as well as the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. You can subscribe to 5 Minute News on YouTube with your preferred podcast app. Ask your smart speaker or enable 5 Minute News as your Amazon Alexa flash briefing skill. Subscribe, rate and review online at 5minute.news. 5 Minute News is an Evergreen podcast covering politics, inequality, health and climate, delivering independent, unbiased and essential world news daily.